Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more Skaventide content. I was supposed to give you guys a video last Saturday on the big rat boy, but unfortunately I had a little bit of an incident which required a couple of stitches in my hand, which slowed down the end of my week last week immeasurably. So now that it is Monday, I am back on track delivering content for you guys on this awesome box set. I'm going to give my hand a little bit of a break. I'm not going to try anything too complicated or anything that's going to take too many hours in the day to paint. So I thought, what better thing to do than to jump in with one of the simplest miniatures in the box set, but still quite beautiful. One of the new Liberators. Now, you guys have been enjoying my Space Marine chapter kind of content videos over the last couple of weeks, and I thought I would jump in and do the same kind of thing for some of the different chambers for the Stormcast Eternal. So for today's video, in this Heldenhammer model, the Anvils of Heldenhammer is what I'm going to paint up this Liberator as. So that's the beautiful black and gold color scheme. And I'm going to show you a very quick, very easy way to paint them up. So if you guys want to follow along with this guide, you'll be able to get your entire Stormcast army painted in no time at all. Before I get into it, just a huge thank you to all of my patrons. I hope you guys have been patient in your extra content as well. Like I said, hand cut, a little bit slowed down, but I will be delivering more and more extra content for you guys throughout this week. If you are also in need of that extra content, there's links in the description below to sign yourself up. Access to private Discord server and that extra content are just two of the awesome rewards available. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in, paint up one of these stunning new sleek Liberators in a very cool scheme. Okay, so this is one of the beautiful new Liberators, much sleeker, much more dynamic, much more like the kind of gods that are going to stride across the battlefield and just destroy things. I absolutely love them. Now, that's not to say I do not like the original ones. I have about 40 of the original ones painted up and I love them too. So although this is a bit of a glow up, I'm not replacing my old ones with these ones. I'm simply just adding in more. So the miniature was sprayed black and then given a heavy zenithal of lead belcher. Exactly the same as if I was painting my Black Templars. Which is crucial because I'm using the same technique to paint this armor as I did for my Black Templars, which is grabbing some Black Templar contrast and applying this all over the armor panels. This is a very simple technique to do. Like I said, if you have a lot of Liberators that you want to get painted, you could easily paint up kind of like 5 of these in an evening to a really nice tabletop standard. That means you could get, you know, if you had the entire week, 35 guys done in a week. So 2 or 3 weeks would have an entire Stormcast army painted, which I think is pretty good going for an entire Age of Sigmar army. As you can see, I am going on quite heavily with the contrast. I'm trusting it to know where to go. And once I've applied it, I do go back in with the brush and remove any excess that's like pooling in weird places. But you don't want to do this when it's like half dry. I would rather have somewhere that's a little bit thicker in paint than try and remove some of that contrast when it's already kind of semi-dry. You're just going to get tearing of the paint and scratches and blemishes that you're never really going to fix. Once that Black Templar contrast is fully dried, I then give the armor a dry brush of lead belcher. This kind of catches all the edges again, adds the definition back in of all those sharp edges on the sides of the armor, like the pectorals, the big back muscle, all those kind of bits and pieces that are designed onto that armor are just going to get caught with this. Now, I know it's quite bright and shiny. It's not going to be the last step for the armor. There is one more step to go, which, like I said, if you know my Black Templar scheme, you know what that is. But we will get to it in a moment. After the lead belcher dry brush, we then grab standard lead belcher itself and go back in and repaint any of the bits in this model that's supposed to be silver detail. So for instance, his kind of dragon scale skirt thingy that he has, I'm going to go back in and make sure there's no Black Templar on that. Also brighten it up a little bit. We're going to get the head of the hammer, some of the design on the shield, and any other bits and pieces that you think need to be silver across these miniatures. Obviously, if you had a blade, the sword would be there and stuff like that. This scheme can easily be transferred across to any of the miniatures from the box set. Some with a little bit more detail will just have a little bit more silver or a little bit more gold as you go. Speaking of gold, Retributor Armor Gold was then brought in for the base coat and trim of all of the armor. So there is pretty much trim on the entire armor. There's lots of detail around his beautiful hammer, his awesome shield, even the extra bits, that kind of detail that goes around his face and it's over the top of his helmet. I had to go through quite a lot of pictures to try and find that detail and what color that was supposed to go. The rest of the base coats are fairly straightforward, and as I'm applying them, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about the Anvils of the Heldenhammer. The Anvils of the Heldenhammer are a storm host of the Stormcast Eternals wearing black armor, and the warriors of the Anvils of the Heldenhammer are dark and brooding as their reforging came as the broken world spun sinister under a magical gloom of fell magics. They are sinister of aspect and have an archaic mindset, using many practices and rites that were once long lost to mortal memory. What they fear the most is the prospect of their final demise, with many of the Lord Relictors frequently brooding on the subject. They trust Sigmar to not lose the War of Spirits. And here's where they get really interesting. So the Anvils of the Heldenhammer are recruited from heroes of a distant age, long, ancient, dead, that fight like specters out of legend. Unlike most Eternals, they were not taken at the brink of their death, but were already at rest when they were called by Sigmar. Nagash considers this an unforgivable theft, and some inhabitants of Sheaf were equally enraged to discover that their ancient heroes had been taken from them during their time of need. But instead of feeling resentment against being plunged into battle once more, the opposite is true for these warriors of Sigmar. Protected from Nagash's clutches through the miracle of reforging, death is no longer feared, but analysed, studied, and in times wielded as a weapon by the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, protectors of the lives and souls of Sigmar's people. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how they fight. So in battle, the Anvils of the Heldenhammer employ strategies refined over the long centuries. Their lines among the finest of all the Stormcast hosts, as their warriors fight with the experience of lifetimes full of conflict. Their close relationship allows them to remain calm even in the heat of the fiercest battles, as even their dead on the field of battle is only temporary. The same is not true for most of their opponents, as the Anvils decorate their armour with skeletal artifacts or skull-faced helmets, wielding the fear of death as another weapon in their arsenal. Many an army has laid down their weapons at the sight of these warriors even before a single blow has been struck. Yet, the most hated of their many foes are the undead constructs of the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Nagash's Necrotopia, the rule of the dead over the living, is seen as perversion of everything Sigmar and the Stormcast Eternals believe in. Yet, the brutal clashes between these two are fought in unerring silence, save for the occasional command and blast of Azurite energy as Sigmar clash against Bone. Now, one of the awful side effects of these guys is the kind of side effects they get from reforging. So, the more they are reforged, the more skeletal and dead they appear. Sunken eyes and grey corpse skin are common side effects documented among the Anvils of Heldenhammer. Some Stormcast have also witnessed their booming voices drop through a faint whisper. So there's just a little bit more information on the Anvils of the Heldenhammer. Like I said, I want to do a couple of different chambers of Stormcast and hopefully educate you guys on a little bit more information about each one as I do them. So I've gotten this miniature to the stage now where the rest of the base coats are being applied. The entire model has been washed with Nuln Oil. That helped finish off the armor, give it that kind of polished sheen. It makes it look like, you know, metallic but also black. I love that look. I don't want flat looking armor. Armor should be made of something metal, so it should be a bit shiny, I feel. So after this, I go back and I grab Lead Belcher again. You can grab a brighter silver for this if you're doing other storm coasts and you want the metallics to pop a little bit more. But I feel these guys are so, like the word says, sinister and dark and brutal. So I'm going to use Lead Belcher to really highlight all of the metallic. That is all the silvers and all the golds. And it's just little touch highlights just to add that pop back into the scheme. It's very quick, very effective, and it does a great job. Here's a quick how it works over the awesome lion shoulder pad. As you can see, with the fine pointed brush, I'm just hitting the kind of raised areas. I'm not trying to go back over it and make it silver. I want it to definitely still register as gold, just nicely highlighted. And you can see how quick I can do it across a shield, which means you could do it over the you know, an entire squad of 5 of these guys in maybe 5 or 6 minutes. It doesn't take long to do at all. And with that bit done, there's only really a couple of highlights left to do on some of the other details. So I've already finished basing the miniature and added some grass tufts. We're going to go back to Screamer Pink and re-highlight all of the handles of all the different swords, and obviously that big awesome plume down the helmet. I love that as a little extra spot color for Stormcast Eternals. Plumes for everything I say. It looks incredible. After that, we're just going to get some brown for things like the leather, his kind of undershirt that's kind of down behind his kneecaps and his boots and stuff like that, the straps holding on his shield. These are just very quick and very easy steps, which are really going to help this model pop. And of course, my go-to for highlighting leather is always going to be the Blood Reaver Flesh. It's really nice. It's got a nice kind of warmth to it, which I think suits leather quite well. Like I said, I've only ever personally painted the gold and blue ones before, the standard Stormcast Eternal, if you will, the poster boys. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this scheme as much as I did. I'm kind of excited to paint the kind of purpley pink scheme, but I wasn't massively excited to paint the black scheme. But once I got it done, I really like how it turned out, and reading up on their lore so I can share it with you guys. They're also pretty gnarly as well, so perhaps a small portion of my Stormcast army should get held aside and painted up as Anvils of the Heldenhammer. And maybe I'll end up with a whole bunch of different squads done for a whole bunch of different storm hosts all fighting together in this crazy giant Stormcast army. I think that will be epic. Remember to let me know what other storm hosts you want to see me paint in future videos. Okay guys, and there we have it, the first Anvils of the Heldenhammer, new Liberator, painted up, maybe in the world, I don't know. He is beautiful. It was a very easy scheme to do. I used the same black recipe I do for my black power armor for my Black Templars, which meant the entire process was very, very quick. Like I said, I'm gonna do, I say up to 5 Liberators in different schemes. So if there's any specific schemes out there for the Stormcast that you guys want to see, let me know and I will jump in and get them done for you. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you do those 3 things that all YouTubers ask you to do. I know it seems like a silly thing, but it really does add so much to our content. It pushes it out to more people, helps us be noticed by more supporters, you know, sponsors, all that kind of thing. So just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds out of your day. It means the world to us. And make sure you let me know in the comments which other chapters you want to see. I know they're not chapters, but they're chapters. Thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.